the appropriate sanctions.
Fourth oral question, Lord Dodds of Dunkerque.
My Lords, I beg leave to ask a question standing in my name on the order paper.
My Lords, the Windsor framework disapplies swathes of EU law in Northern Ireland, too many to list here in full. We have published a full range of legal texts that underpin this new agreement. It completely carves out whole areas of EU law on issues like VAT, medicines and food in a way the EU has never done before. It means that it is UK laws and standards that apply and the UK Parliament which decides what those rules should be.
My Lords, I'm grateful to my noble friend the Minister for that reply. I think, although he hasn't answered the question, and I'd be grateful if he commit to putting in the library or writing to me with a list of the actual laws and regulations which have been disapplied, not generalities. Because by not giving us the list of those rules, which they must have if they know that it's 1,700 pages and it's swathes, they must have the list of laws and regulations. And in not publishing them, I fear that they are running into the danger of allowing people to think that the reason that they're not publishing the list is because the vast bulk of the laws in Annex 2 of the actual protocol, which apply the single market and customs union rules of the EU to Northern Ireland without consent, will remain, and that the Stormont break, such as it is, with all its defects, does not apply to them.
I'm very grateful to my noble friend for his supplementary, and I do apologise that I can't give him a definitive number at this stage. He'll appreciate that I'm not an expert in EU law and I've no intention of becoming one, but my understanding is that the situation is somewhat more complex than just adding together a list, because there will of course be some directives that are in part still applied in respect, for example, of the red channel and disapplied in respect of the green channel. But I can assure him, for example, Annex 1 of the EU regulations covering SPS rules to accommodate Northern Ireland that I have here actually lists 67 EU rules that are now disapplied. So I will take back what he said about trying to publish a definitive list, but I say the situation is slightly more complicated than just adding together one list.
Lords, my Lords, my Lords, this is my Lords, my Lords, my Lords, my Lords, how much? My Lords.
My Lord, should we hear from the noble Lady Ritchie and then my noble friend Lord Hailsham?
My Lords, how much of the legislation attached to the Windsor framework has been written? What is the process for its drafting? Will the Irish Government and the Northern Ireland parties be consulted? And have any of them already been consulted regarding the drafting?
Thank the noble Baroness for her question. She will be aware that the legislation is still being drafted. My right honourable friend, the Secretary of State, spoke to Northern Ireland parties over the weekend. Officials engaged with Northern Ireland parties yesterday, and there'll be more such engagement from my right honourable friend and from officials later this week. So that process is ongoing, and we do wish to bring the legislation that's required forward as soon as necessary. She mentioned the role of the Irish Government. Of course, we keep in close contact with the Irish Government, but I think it really is very important that we observe the constitutional proprieties on this matter, given that these are Strand 1 issues and internal to the United Kingdom Parliament.
My Lords, in welcoming the framework agreement, may I say to my noble friend that this shows what can be achieved when the principal negotiators are masters of detail, willing to compromise, and have a reputation for honesty and straight dealing. And that is a lesson that should be learned by previous negotiators.
Well, I'm grateful to my noble friend. I can't imagine what point he's possibly trying to make with his question, but I can assure him that the attributes that he set out are all ones that are my right honourable friend, the Prime Minister, has in spades.
My Lords, does the noble Lord the Minister agree that what businesses in Northern Ireland need now is stability
and the ability to plan? Does he further agree that while it's reasonable to allow all parties, including the DUP, time to examine the Windsor deal in detail, it is not reasonable to allow one party to continue to block progress indefinitely? Yeah.
I'm very grateful to the noble Baroness, and she's absolutely right that Northern Ireland needs stability and certainty. As I said in response to a question last week, for those of us who passionately believe in the union of Great Britain and Northern Ireland's position within the United Kingdom, restoring the institutions and having political stability in Northern Ireland, to me, is the surest way of and building a Northern Ireland that works for all parts of the community is the surest foundation for strengthening the United Kingdom.
My Lords, can I welcome that the DUP have set up a panel to look at the issues around the framework, and I hope they'll be looking at what it can deliver for Northern Ireland. And I hope the government, the Minister, can confirm that the government will fully cooperate in that process, working with the panel. But can I also say to your Lordships that, and it's a point that the Minister himself just made, that there isn't really a perfect solution for the position we're in. But what we want to do is ensure we get the best outcomes for Northern Ireland and the UK. I have to say, I hope that the DUP will conclude that they can go back into the Assembly and the Executive, because the only way to truly address the democratic deficit in Northern Ireland is to have a fully functioning Executive and Assembly. So I look forward to the outcome of the panel's responses, and I hope they will recognise the effort that has gone into achieving this agreement.
Well, I appreciate very much the comments of the noble Baroness and the tone with which she expressed them. Of course, we all hugely desire the restoration of the political institutions at the earliest opportunity, not least as we approach the 25th anniversary of the Belfast Agreement, which the party opposite negotiated in government. On the panel, that is of course a matter for the Democratic Unionist Party. The government is committed to working with all parties to take this process forward. Where there is a need for official technical briefings, we are quite prepared to provide those. And as I say, we will work with all parties to take this forward.
My Lord.
Told his MEPs that the European Court still reigns supreme over Northern Ireland, despite what the British Prime Minister said. He also said that the framework was designed in a way to avoid hostile headlines in the British press, and that the Stormont break is very much limited in scope and it's really under very strict conditions. Does the noble Lord the Minister accept that the truth about the framework agreement is now out, and it shows that the Prime Minister has hugely oversold it as a triumph, when in fact it is a small tinkering of the methods of delivering the very same protocol that has done so much damage to Northern Ireland?
Thank the noble Baroness. I'm afraid I have to disagree with her rather fundamentally in her characterisation of the agreement negotiated by my right honourable friend the Prime Minister and others, which I regard as a very considerable improvement in all respects on the existing protocol. In respect to the number of issues she raised, the Windsor framework will allow for the free flow of trade between Great Britain and Northern Ireland. It will underpin Northern Ireland's position within our United Kingdom, and the Stormont break will give the United Kingdom government a sovereign veto over new legislation within the scope of the protocol.
My Lords, my Lords, my Lords, my Lords, my Lords, my Lords.
My Lords, it is quite clear that this brilliant achievement by the Prime Minister deserves widespread support. And would my noble friend not agree that those who wish to serve the people of Northern Ireland would be far better recognising that this is the best they will ever get and making it work?
I could hardly agree with my noble friend more.
My Lord.
The Windsor framework is not merely about Northern Ireland. It has potentially profound implications for the rest of the United Kingdom as well. Paragraph 52 of the command paper reads that the Office of the Internal Market will specifically monitor any impacts for Northern Ireland arising from relevant future regulatory changes. Could my noble friend say what the purpose of that is and what weight the government is going to give to the results of such monitoring?
The purpose, as I understand it, in answer to my noble friend, is to ensure that any proposals for divergence can be managed in a way that is consistent with the integrity of the United Kingdom internal market, which is incredibly important for Northern Ireland and for the rest of the United Kingdom. I mean, he refers to Great Britain, and of course the deal is not just good for Northern Ireland, it's good for businesses in Great Britain who have had trouble supplying the Northern Ireland market, including friends of mine and including members of this House. My noble friend Lord Taylor on his place, I don't think. But there have been a number of problems in respect of trade from GB to NI, which this agreement, this brilliant achievement by the Prime Minister, will help to remedy.
My Lord.